Okay. It's
Uh,
actually a good practice to talk in English because depending
yeah, it's important
on if I
because
am English interview with and next week I'm also having an English interview with someone from Europe.
oh, nice. Which country?
But it might I don't know. I just know they are from euros, so that's pretty cool. Sure. Let me mute the otherwise I will get to listen to things twice. That's not cool. But anyway, so there will be probably two interviews, one with a Brazilian guy and one with someone from some place in Europe. And the more practice I get, the better. Also, my channel will be in English too, so yeah.
Yeah, wow. My English is not very good, but if you get uh, when I started this channel, my English is way better now.
No, it's pretty cool. It's working nicely. So
Hello,
far, so good.
Ranchos! Oh, I forgot to open the questions here. I got so
Mm,
I think we might start. Want to send a link to someone? I
uh,
will I will send you the tweet, and you can advertise in your social media.
we'll retweet your tweet then.
Sure, that's a nice way of doing it.
Let's see
I think I'm
if it.
I am online. Laurent is watching me, so we are online. Really are online. And we're here today with Ceci Honey, a pixel artist that works with some very interesting game and also do commissions and freelance work. So Ceci, if you wanna introduce yourself.
Uh, Hi, let me for some reason myself in the stream, but let's go. Yeah. So, hi, I am Ceci Honey. I am a pixel artist since I was like 10 years old. That's about 30 years uh, ago. So, yeah, I am older than I look. And, well, I'm also into games. Pixel art and games go hand to hand for a while. I started drawing far before pixel art. One of the two things I usually draw more for my personal enjoyment are machines and growth, especially myself. I like to do self-portraits a lot. And I work as a freelancing artist for about 12 years, almost 13 years now. And along with that, there are those projects I do for clients as a freelancer. I am striving to get a fixed position. In some companies, something because freelancing is really heavy, and since everyone now is at home office, then my previous problem with working for a company or something more stable, which was going to the place, not so much being with the colleagues, I actually like that part, but the whole 2 hours bus drive to the place was kind of bad living in São Paulo. It's a really large city. You don't take less than an hour to reach anywhere you want to go, unless it's on foot. And again, it's hard to find work close to your home in São Paulo too. So, and now I'm looking for a fixed position. But there are also my personal projects, some things I started years ago. There's including that there is Rosalina X, which was my first game for my first game jam, and I was really scared and I cried when I didn't find a team. That was a crazy thing. I may talk about it later. And there are the projects for some black games, which is my partnership with my girlfriend. We made games together since last year's Woman Game Jam. And we've been making some projects since, both for game jams and warming up some stuff under our sleeves uh, now. So, yeah, I am also a bit more personal. I am a trans woman. I am autist, what we call here light degree of autism, but it was usually called Asperger. And I am also albino girl, so that kind of explains why I'm Brazilian. But yeah, different from the what most people view as Brazilians. But there are other people like me who aren't albino too. There is a lot of mix and match over here, more so than a lot of people know. That's about it for now.
Uh, for oh, that's a lot of things to talk about. As I say, you live in the biggest city in Brazil, São Paulo.
Yes.
And it normally take about 2 buses, 3 train stations, and 7 kilometers of walking to get anywhere there.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've also worked at 3 hours from home. That was harsh. 3 hours from home, and I still had college by night. So it was working by day, and then basically I went like 6 a.m. to street and got back home like 12 a.m. So that's crazy.
uh, yeah, that's a very rush thing. In some ways, I'm kind of grateful that this situation I can talk about because terms of service, we are going for a less local workplace mentality and more of a how it's called working
Uh,
from home. You know?
Yeah, and more global too, because when you work for home, you can work for anyone, any place. So yeah, I hope. Uh, eh, so to find jobs, most of the jobs I am seeing and looking at are not in São Paulo actually. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's very great. As I was talking about before, now that the Brazilian currency is so devaluated, you really need to work outside of Brazil to survive.
yeah. So
Or in
well,
technology.
yeah, yes, I say that actually. Uh, f- a lot of time ago, my dad also supported this idea. So I came kind of from him with this that in other countries, in other places, people use it to do more home office before us. We are Brazil is having a hard time to adapt exactly because we had this culture that if you have to work, you gotta put on some clothes and take the bus or car and go to work and lunch with everyone and eat with everyone, then work with everyone. So that's kind of tradition. And well, people here like tradition. We see it a lot in many aspects. I don't need to go into that. I mean, everyone sees what I'm talking about. But yeah, so it reaches work, but there goes coronavirus shaking up these traditions for people, for bad and for some good too. Like yes, evolving at some aspects. Both these delivery, online purchase are something that people are looking forward more here. So yeah, companies are still adapting, but they have to. It's the future, even if we didn't have the whole virus thing.
You talk about giving up on being a freelancer and go to a stable job.
Um,
As you play some RPGs, the first thing you do is start as freelancer and get out of it as soon as possible. And I think this is also working in real life. But just like in RPGs, freelancers also has some good and bad. Why do you want to transition from freelancer and you, you've been in a freelancer for more than a decade, so there are something you like it, I think, I hope.
well,
What made you stay that long?
freelancing, freelancing to me, the initially it was not like there was many options before when I started working with games, mostly art for games, because we then entered 2 points. The first is exactly like games and art are two things that people look for freelancing more than anything. And two areas that both indie games and I think large companies hire people as freelancers. And art has always been to something that people look for freelancers because they want an artist or a photographer for a project. So let's go. So back in the days, we didn't have many like our company produces so many games in the same style that we need an artist there. It's still kind of a reality. That's why I'm open to positions like art producer or art director. Those are things that are more fixed and independent. If your game will be a 3D, pixel art, vector art, as long as it will have art, you need either an art producer or an art director if you are having large a large team, a bigger team than just like one, two artists. So it's cool to have someone to organize, to set the style, set the mood. So yeah, but back then I didn't have this option. So yeah, or when I had, there was someone from São Paulo who contacted me once for a job, but again, it was 3 hours from home every day. So I declined because I really don't want to go through that again. I don't see many other benefits besides working from home. So that's why the big change, I guess, for me. Some people like the flexibility, the work where when you want. I kind of like it that, but for now, the working where when you want is more. It can be a two-edged sword, really. On one side, you can actually shows your time like, oh, I will work from 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. the next day. It might be cool, but when you see that you don't have like something fixed like, oh, I have this client who will always pay me every month. So no, you start to have to pick more work to ensure that if this or that client stop giving me work, I still have that client. And sometimes you want to decline something, but no, I will get. So I end up getting my hands full. I end up earning a lot, but working a lot, and it's hard to keep control because if I say, I will take less jobs, I will decline this and that, sometimes maybe in the next month, the jobs I declined might be the only ones I had. So I guess this is like walking on some stones over lava. So you have to jump over that stone, and maybe that next stone doesn't look that good, that stable, when you say, yeah, let's jump on that stone because maybe the stone I am sinks. I am standing right now, sinks into the lava in a few seconds, so better jump to the next one and keep jumping, 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 and that's kind of tiring. I am a quite dynamic person. I became more dynamic with 12 years of freelancing, but still I am I within the autism spectrum. Having something stable, having a routine for me is better than something chaotic, even if I can have some control of this. But again, it's not full control because sometimes I wake up and I go to the computer ready to do a certain job that I programmed myself to do that day, and then comes a client, hey, I need you to do this by Monday, and then it kind of screws up my schedule. And yes, I know sometimes this happens on companies, but companies nowadays. Some companies are trying to be more humane, more like, oh, okay, so you have to work extra today, but you get a day off next day or something like this. Yeah, they are striving for a better reputation with people. Like we are not monsters who drain people's blood, and also it's intelligent for them to do that because well they got better, more healthy people working for them. So it's no good if you overwork people and they are all dead 2 years, or they just work someplace else because you treat them like machines. So I guess it kind of helps with that. So we have uh, slowly we are having a better environment in the game dev industry. So yeah, looking for a fixed position is more tangible now, and freelancing is getting less interesting now. I don't have much time even to play games, and I think playing games is part of game dev, is part of the research, and I need that time back. I need time to learn 3D, to uh, get back to illustration, to hand drawn illustration, and other things more personal. I want to take one.
Yeah, there's a trap there. Now. We talk about being non-registered in working. You have a bigger flexibility. People with disability would be kind of drawn to it. For example, you're on the autism spectrum, and those people tend to like to work in at night better because of the silence. Not all autism have sound sensibilities, but some do, and those tends to like to work at night. Even more if you live in somewhere with bigger movement like São Paulo. But at the same
Mhm.
time, the thing like, oh, do your own work schedule. You can work whenever you want to. Is an invitation to work it 16 hours a day so you can pay your rent. And sometimes it's kind of hard to balance everything like that. Uh,
Uh, yeah, that's hard. And for some people, self-management is hard. For me, it's easier to self-manage for work than for leisure. So one of the reasons I play less games is that because my time at work, when I'm not working, I want to start doing something I like, and when I get into something I like, I do it a lot. So, like if I had a weekend where I say Saturday and Sunday, I can just do what I want to do. So I can immerse in those things. Right now, I don't have this because I work a bit, at least a bit every day. So I have to work a lot, and that kind of screws that part up. So yeah, I'm trying to go for something healthier. Some companies also happen to provide other support like health. plan or health insurance. Né? That's how they call it in English. They call plan, but that is insurance. And uh, some other benefits like some food. I don't know how it's spelled in English, but basically it's food tickets, I guess. So yeah, that's something. Transportation is not needed since I'm not applying for anything that will be on site. Oh yeah, there are other things that are cool in fixed positions, which I only had when I worked with my dad in another field completely different from game dev. I quit that once my dad saw that I was doing freelancing for games. He said, "On from 4 months into the future, I will basically uh, you out from our company and you will work on your career because that's what you like doing." He gave me all uh, the benefits you get when you are when some company demotes you. That's pretty cool. And I lived both from it and from my first freelancing for a while. And when that money ran out, I my first freelancing years were kind of dire, to say the least, until I got more recognition, and then I have a lot of clients, a lot of work. Really, I want to use that recognition to get some things more simple and stable. I may do some freelancing along with it yet, but only for certain projects. And when I say I have some extra time, I want some extra pay. So yeah, my focus besides working on a company should be on my own personal projects, the Sunblack projects, and self-improvement, things that will be good for the company or client, etc.
You just talked about Sunblack project. Do you want to talk about what is Sunblack?
Well, Sunblack started as the team my girlfriend and my made when we participated in the Woman Game Jam last year. It was my second game jam, and it was her first. She wasn't really in the mood at the start, but once the game jam team was revealed, boom, she was into it. I was like already into the fray, so uh, I was like, hey, let's do it. And we pulled our first project together, which was A Way to Find You. The title was in English actually because we plan to translate it to English, and we actually plan to make it or port it at least to another engine such as Title Builder or Visual Novel Maker for better readability or first it was moved to one. So yeah, and the project was kind of
Ceci, we lost her. I hope she'll be back later soon. Uh, so, as Ceci was talking about, as we wait her to come back, let me see if I wasn't the one that's connected. No, it's working here. Okay. Ceci Honey has this HIO team, game dev team called Sunblack. They work in a small team of 3 people. You can check her HIO. I sent the link on the chat. I'm waiting to see what happened to her connection. If you have any questions, please send me. I will send it forward. Um, yeah, I don't know what to talk about for now. So in the background, we have one of the on Ceci Honey's most iconic drawings. It's a drawing of her sitting in a mecha cockpit. And you can see her art is amazing. We just got the confirmation of her disconnection for now. I hope she comes back soon. Yeah, let me see if I can insert some art here easily. I really don't know how to do it easily. And I may have to download some because I didn't prepare myself for that. Let's do this one first. This is the one she uses on her social media. Let me get more of her work on her Twitter for now. She's more active on LinkedIn than she's on Twitter. She also has a Facebook page. Let me get her Twitter here. This is her Twitter if someone wants to check it out. She's doing some work for games right now. Save image. I really will take some time to show each image as I have to download them separately. So sorry about that. I think it would happen sooner or later. So now I know I have to prepare for it. Where is Oh, here it is. Let me properties. We I don't know if it's showing already for you guys. It is. So here we have another character from her upcoming game.
I'm back.
Oh, she's back. Let me.
My internet connection played big on me again. It happened the other day in a job interview. My internet really, really hates me.
And Tess is back. So that's some of her artwork. Maybe I can show a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah, if you want. I guess it is appearing along with my camera. So yeah, that one. Actually, those ones were for our last project made for Global Game Jam. It had some. It had a trans man as protagonist, and we had Kaya and Janine along with us in our team. Melina, my girlfriend, so it was us four. Tinha the Sampa Diversa, which was the local cell of the global game jam we are participating in.
You work in kind of lot of game jams, as far we saw it. Are you planning
Uh,
on participating on any game jam soon?
well, we are actually part of the organization of the Brazil Diversa, which will be an expansion of Santa Diversa. But as part of the organization team, uh, depending on the activities and weight, we may go as jammers again. Same for Woman Game Jam. which will happen around August, September this year. So we are in the organization, at least Melina and I. But yeah, Kyle and Janine are back there too. So yeah, the organization part is set. We don't know if we go in as jammers. Depends on their time. Depends on how much we are actually working on our projects or on our jobs until then. So yeah, this is something we are debating. Sometimes there are those short gems, like there was a gem for from Portugal that Melina entered and ended up entering mid-term of it because basically the rest of the team bailed out on her. So I had to so I didn't want to see her ideas or her work uh, going for nothing. So we banded together and made a short gaming RPG maker, which is pretty cool because I've been wanting to make a gaming RPG maker uh, for a long time. I- Most of the games we had done before were in RenPy or Twine, most visual novels. So, yeah, working with a RPG Maker is one thing I like. I like the interface. I also got Sim RPG Maker lately, so I am curious to test that. Maybe do something like Super Robot Wars, but with my original mecha. That might be pretty cool. But yeah, again, need time for to mess with these things. There's my YouTube channel project too. I've made the opening for it, so now I just need some to sort some credits and some other layout stuff, and then start recording again because the first two videos I made are really outdated. I like my hair grew a lot, so I'd rather record them again with some better equipment, a better setup. Now I have this ring light, which is pretty cool. So I put these things to use.
Uh, well, I really lost myself here on how to bring the conversation.
Oh well,
But
I guess I talk too much too, so I'm kind of to blame about that.
no, you don't talk too much. It's good when people talk too much because we have to extend the conversation as much as possible. So what made you begin doing pixel art?
Well, there were a few factors, I guess. First, I used it to draw since I was a kid. I started drawing just cars. That was like my hyper focus as a kid. I loved cars, and whenever I went to the street and I saw a cool, different car, and here in São Paulo, sometimes we see like Ferraris or Lamborghinis or Porsche. So whenever I see something different, or even some old cars, like or some really hard to find cars like the Gurgel or something, I was like made signal for my parents to stop. I usually took 3 turns around the car, more or less. I don't have too clear memories, but my parents assured me of that. Was allowed 3 times doing some spin around the car to see the details, and then I get back home and drew it. I didn't draw better than most kids in the say like line art, but one thing I always had different from other kids, and I still think that's my strong suit nowadays, is the vision for detail, for perspective. So I looked at the car and I saw the headlights, the headlight positioning. I saw that it had the back mirrors. Uh, it had the wheels, the placement of the wheels on the car. It was something most kids usually do wrong because they usually do the bottom of the car flat and then place the wheels below it like a skateboard. And I always wondered why other kids did that, because to me it was clear if you're driving a car, you try to make the car look like a car, and the wheels are inserted into the vehicle. So to me as a kid, that was crazy. That was like, hey, why aren't the wheels inserted into the chassis of the car? So yeah, with time I started driving from eating to mecha into starships. It had to do with anime. It had to do with tokusatsu. I was like tokusatsu, so that then through this. And then when I was starting to draw people, that took a lot of time. So I drew cars and machines since I was like 3. And then when I was like 10, I was starting to draw people kinda bad because organics to me are far hard to comprehend than machines. Machines are far easier, far familiar to me. Organics, well, they have this more chaotic setting, like everything has to feel uh, like muscles and such. It's more round, less square or less precise. So yeah, and my dad brought a first computer into our home. He worked with technology since I was very young, and that was quite interesting. We had like a monochromatic screen, so it was all shades of orange or layer all shades of green. And he said, "Oh, there is some program you can draw here," and it was the DOS version of MS Paint. They didn't have a Windows back then. And he used it to type paint then does and it opened and I saw that it was like drawing, but since I could click with the mouse to place each pixel, each dot, I didn't have to make the lines clear. And one difficulty I had with line art since I was a kid is my fear of committing mistakes. So I hate doing mistakes, especially if other people will see it. That gets me nervous. That's something I kind of improved during the manga course I made later on. My teacher asked me to practice line art, do this line art improving exercise. It improved a bit, but didn't solve the problem completely. There's a psychological part into it. I am aware of that. And pixel art never had that. Pixel art was just pixel art. So I just clicked. The dexterity you need to do it is the same to work on Facebook, and fixing mistakes with pixel art is quite easy. So yeah, 3D is more or less the same thing. I am learning 3D now through a course over Udemy. So it's kind of like that. You use the mouse, you go over. So that kind of went. And the third reason, I guess, the cherry on top was when I started playing video games. Now I started with Atari and wasn't very interested in those games where you all you have to do is do better to earn more points. But then when I first played Vice Project Doom on the NES, I went crazy. I went like, oh, games can have plot, they can have atmosphere. So the setting was like one of the first stages was like a bay, a port. Uh, and it really looked like it sure it had some places that you could fall in. It had some structures that were a bit high. So but overall, even with the gameplay elements, the overall setting looked like the setting it was supposed to portray. It was a bay or port. So it was really mind blowing to me at the time. Then I went to Mega Man because a friend said, "Hey, if you like this Vice Project Doom thing, you might like Mega Man." And I was, "Oh, cooler, even cooler about some stuff." So yeah, again, the stages were
Wait, I
like
can
a
have a
power
robot,
plant.
people?
Yeah, and the bosses were pretty cool. Like each one has some particular thing. My friends and I started to draw in paper some stages of our own original bosses for Mega Man. Like there was our Turbo Man, I think, in Mega Man 7. Back in the days, I made my own Turbo Man, which I think looks conceptually cooler And that my drawing wasn't that good, but the idea of mine, he turned it into a head little car, more so than just lie on the ground with with like a human making yoga. No, he really turned it into a little car, and it was pretty cool. So from then on, there was JRPG, so RPG. So my story of games started to grow from those the whole narrative games or games that had some narration to them. And I was like, hey, that's immersion. I guess that was what was I was missing back in the Atari games. The thing like I am part of the game, and the game gives me a clear objective, an objective that I care for. Like, oh, you got to save those people. Like, you got to take revenge for this guy that died. So I remember back in Vice Project Doom, there was this girl, she was like her partner. You had like two girl partners, and one of them goes to investigate something around the villain's laboratory, and you face a boss made of slime. It's kind of humanoid slime, and when you defeat the boss, you find out that one of her partners was turned into that slime, and you basically they made you kill her. And it was like, hell, I killed the girl. I didn't even know her name because the game was in Japanese. But yeah, by the cutscenes, I could understand the story. Kind of, me and my friends kind of made up our own story for that game. So we started to think like, whoa. And when I had the emulator, I downloaded the US version to play, and I saw that some things were right because we looked at the cutscenes, and some others were like your crazy trips, like we are 12, 13 years old, so it was kind of crazy. But yeah, that was how I got into pixel art. There was a lot of back and forth with looking at games, especially Mega Man X. That was one of the reasons when I saw that team remake on my first game jam. I went with Mega Man X for inspiration to do Rosalina X because it was my first uh, one of my first references for games in my reference map. I even added Mega Man X right into the first part because I wanted people to see that it was one of my main references. I learned a lot from the X series. Yeah, that's about my start of pixel art.
uh, when looking at I see some details that I don't see in many games. That's why I always say your art looks like a Fantasy Star inspiration. Cause when people do human characters in pixel art, normally they do a chibi character, a very stylized character, and you normally add all the details, all the complexity on that character. Maybe to fit better with all those details, mechas, robots, computers, and stuff you like to draw. Uh, so it's kind of surprising to me that Fantasy Star wasn't on that list of art that inspired you to start it. That I can
Uh,
see Mega Man in your stuff also. It's very in there.
Well, it's interesting because while I saw Phantasy Star 4, which is my favorite, and it's my second favorite game, on losing to Xenogears from PS1, uh, it's there, but back then I didn't have access to Genesis Mega Drive console. So I only got to play the Phantasy Star series much later on when I was like 20. I paid for my own internet and I got emulators into my computer. Those were some of the first games I played. But one curious thing is that if you look at Mega Man X series and Phantasy Star, in terms of setting, they have a lot in common. Just that, well, Phantasy Star, especially the fourth Phantasy Star uh, for it was for the Genesis, and the Genesis had some limited colors, so the black line art makes it look too different. But if someone made Phantasy Star for internet caiu de novo. Ah, não voltou. I thought the internet had fallen again. But then again. So yeah, if Mega Man X was made into the Super Nintendo, it probably Phantasy Star 4 would make the Super Nintendo. It would look a lot like Mega Man X, maybe considering the style, the details. So if you look at my influence map, I should have sent it to you. If I could display it here, but it's in most of my social media. Sometime I post it. There is there Phantasy Star 4 is in my reference map. I learned a lot about it, even if a bit later, because the screenshots in video game magazines were too small. Then it was cool enough to see the artwork, like the characters, the armor, something. But when it comes to screenshots of JRPGs with smaller characters, that was something. So yeah, I like to pull from that. I guess over the years too, animation. I guess a lot of a lot of my upbringing into drawing also came with some old anime, most because of mecha. So Voltes V, which was my first Super Robot anime, Macross, and especially Macross, it shares uh, some similarities in character design. Zillion too, because Zillion was also from Sega, and they had some connection with the Phantasy Star team, because back then all teams from working on games from Sega were more or less the same people trading places. So yeah, it was the Sega back then was kind of screwed making a lot of games to compete with Nintendo, but Nintendo got all the other soft houses on their side, and Sega was struggling until I think in '93 when the contracts of exclusivity or some other thing Nintendo pulled back then, and Sega started getting back on their feet with other companies. But until then, it was all their stuff, and they running around making their own games with the people they had. So there was a lot in common between art from Sega games, even Shining Force, which is another awesome reference for pixel artists. I always say. But yeah, Mega Man X and Phantasy Star share a lot of similarities. Xenogears, for one, is also another reference. Uh, in pixel art, not so much because they don't use outlines for the characters in Xenogears, mostly to go with the 3D part of the environment, the mecha. So they opted for no outline style for characters. And to be fair, it works, but I prefer to have colored outlines than not having outlines. Not having outline a little bit too chaotic or too uh, soft for me. I like things in a box, I guess. But black outlines to me are the other extreme too. Nowadays, I don't use black outlines like I used to do.
I remember very well. It was about 4 years ago. I was talking about starting doing pixel art with you, and you said to me to not use black outlines.
Yeah, unless it's necessary. There are places where even today you may want to use black outlines if you have like too few colors, or if you have some high contrast elements. So yeah, those might be places where you might want to use black outlines.
I was trying to think of some art I should post it here, but I don't know which art you want to show, what you don't, which you don't.
Oh, everything I made or posted somewhere, it's pretty cool. I personally like that art in the background because it's one of my me things. I guess it was a cover for the Trasgo magazine, and but they gave me freedom, like, well, do anything like fantasy or sci-fi. So I kind of went with both. I call this drawing like the Valkyrie Empress in her Iron Throne. So it kind of deals with the whole concept of me being a witch and worshiping Freya. So the mecha kind of has a Valkyrie-like vibe, and me sitting there in the cockpit try to add those feather ornaments that are common to Valkyrie designs and the white dress. So yeah, try to go for that. Uh, Usually anything that has self-portraits or game art is pretty cool to me. Uh, if I posted, I like it. Save maybe for some things I post on portfolio for work, but it's something like I like the result, but it's not something I like to do like isometric work. Isometric work, something I do if someone pays me, but you never see a project of mine of my own account that is isometric. I don't do isometric for fun. I don't think it's funny. I can do it because I have some good perspective perception. But even for games with isometric, I don't like that much as a player. Like I love front mission, but I love it even more if it weren't isometric.
I like it, this background you did. It was for a game, for an Android game, right?
It was a magazine. It was an online magazine where they had tales written by people, both in fantasy or science fiction. Some pretty good stuff actually. I've read some, including by the editor of the magazine. He once sent me a large tale he was writing about a dystopic future with some investigation and uh, Brazilian folklore creatures. It was pretty cool.
Oh, you're talking about the mecha one. I, I changed the image for a desert one.
Oh, I can't see the images now because for some reason the Twitch uh,
It's not
Twitch
working.
player is like there's this spinning thing loading. So yeah, but if it was a desert, the desert was probably made for Rogue Runner. It was one of the last things I posted on ArtStation. Rogue Runner was an endless runner I made for a client on iPhone. I love to work in this game mostly because the guy not just gave me certain degree of freedom, but he also wanted art to be my own style, so I didn't have to mimic other people's style. And all artwork in the game, besides some UI user interface stuff, was made by me. So anything that were there, backgrounds, characters, vehicles, everything was made by me. And it had something like Metal Slug concept. So we had jeeps, we had motorcycles. The main guy was like a army guy with headband, and there were stages with other teams. Like there was the Halloween stage where instead of the jeep you had a hearse, like a vehicle to pilot. So it was pretty cool to make a hearse as main character vehicle, storming through the graveyard. That was pretty badass.
I just got here a work is Mega Man you draw in your style. We can see
Oh,
a
I
lot
think
of shadows and details that normally aren't present in Mega Man games. Uh,
yeah, Mega Man, as far as concept art and artwork goes, they tend to NES Mega Man. In some other versions or iterations, like Legends, along the time they started to insert a few details, but when it comes to machines, like they always had a lot of detail, even the NES games. But when it comes to characters, they always kept it very clean. So I tried to make something that matches mostly my style, concept art. So I was like, hey, what if I am making art in this style for my own concepts? Might as well do some fun art in this style and see how it goes. Quite inspiration of bands like the Megas and the Protomen, deep versions of Mega Man plot into music that was quite good, especially the Proto Man. I love how they give some dystopic, crazy stuff like Proto Man and Mega Man fighting. And Proto Man is all full of hatred for mankind because they left him to die without helping him against the robots. So he's like, mankind's useless. If you win, well, you see for yourself. And then even Mega Man turns his back into mankind because they were like, yeah, you killed your brother. And he was like, man, I'm suffering. You don't care, so I won't protect you too. And Dr. Wily's robots proceed to slaughter everyone. And Mega Man just walks away. That was pretty badass. That was, whoa. Why would the robots fight for mankind if mankind screws them over? So yeah.
Here we have a Protoman you did, Protoman helmet. In
Yeah,
this
Protoman
scenario,
is my
but
Protoman is my favorite Mega Man character.
yeah, you have a lot of Mega Man stuff. Not so much on Twitter, like having some hard time. I forgot to comment here. I opened a tab to search for the name. You seem like a person that would love to collect some Top Trumps card that is super trunfo in English.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
for
I
just
love
for
it.
those
I love
just
it
for those
for
cars and details about cars.
yeah. I had one for helicopters when I was a kid. One based on helicopters. So I'd love to have some with video game characters or something like that. Maybe we should do this with some Black characters someday. That would be pretty cool to have a super trunfo with some Black characters.
Yeah. The questions I had prepared all are over. If you have anything else to talk about,
uh,
we have a lot of time here. Uh,
I guess first thing was I talked about Rosaline X at first, and I thought I would mention a bit more about it later, since we put this a bit in the last part. Well, it was my first game jam project. I was scared, and a game jam. So yeah, very little time. I didn't get a team back then. Only thing I knew how where to program was RPG Maker. So I didn't have many options. So one of the other girls who went to do her game alone said, "Hey, you are good with narrative. You are good with drawing. Do something narrative." And I went to sleep with it. And the next day, I remember Anna Entropy, which is a trans girl developer, and she used Twine to make a lot of narrative-based games, like sort of visual novels. And that was, I remember I found her stuff pretty cool years before. So I proceeded to search and find which tool she used. And I learned Twine like in 1 hour or something and start making the game, and everything that's there in Rosaline X are this weekend's work. I didn't make an upgraded version or even correct some typos. I just left it as is, kinda like a trophy for having survived that weekend 2 years. So going along with projects, I talked I read about
oh, this
A
image
Way to Find
I
You.
got from the game is so big.
Yeah, if I remember, everything was like 400 for 600 pixels in total size, but it was scaled, so it was like 200. uh, 300 for 200 in original size. So, yes, in game jams, when we do visual novels, our art is a bit big, so there's backgrounds, and there comes the next project I was going to talk about, which we made for the VC Game Jam, which is Clara's Journey. And I think Clara's Journey was like my best work when it comes to backgrounds. It was crazy. I thought, hey, I can make backgrounds in a bigger resolution. This is like back then, Melina wanted to do something like a kids game, something like with a kids book concept, more a kids book than a kids game idea for a visual novel. And I was dying to do something like that years ago. So yeah, I love the ideas, and I thought it deserved that extra touch of high resolution. And it was kind of a mistake uh, because really it became giant. It was like large, and we had like a week to develop that game, and I had to do a big crunch near the weekend because I saw how much work that what actually was to make all backgrounds that big. But I take quite pride in those backgrounds. I like also how the characters came out. We have kids, we have the grandma. Everyone on Facebook was hyped about the grandma bringing cookies and Nesquik. So that was something that we wanted to bring that childhood feeling, both in the story, the art, and the music. It was the first time we had a sound designer working with us. That was pretty cool to have some cool soundtrack in our games. We had mm, further games, but this was the first time, and it was quite an amazing work. It fit well with the story Melina wrote. It fit well with the art I made. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And after that, we made Duas Vidas, which in English translates to Two Lives, which basically was for a game jam about racism. So we created a very plausible future, dystopic future for Brazil, where some dictators, based on both religious and conservative stuff, took the power, were actually elected by the people, which we see already happening, but it was in this future it is much worse. Most of the police is like militias, and they hunt down anyone who is from non-Christian religions or people who are poor or people of color, etc. So it's quite crazy. And the two main characters, they suffer a lot of racism, both in direct discrimination from said militias, from people from stores, teachers. They grow particularly suffer with sexual harassment, the whole sexualization of women, especially women from uh, periphery, so or people, women of color. So yeah, uh, that was our third project, Sun Black. And lastly, I think of what I can one I may during my time as mentor in game jams, I also went to proceed with some workshops in pixel art, mostly in Portuguese. So they were in Portuguese. And I plan to do some similar material for my YouTube video channel, but in English. Uh, it will be a channel mostly about pixel art, but I will but I'll have another section to talk about mecha because that's something I always wanted to make, kind of a program to talk about things I think like designs, stories, animations, games, uh, I'm even thinking about talking about that Gundam Wing Endless Duel for the Super NES at some point because that was one of the first mecha games I could play, which actually had giant robots, not just like Mega Man, which is a human-sized robot. So when I played that game, it was by today's standards, it's a simple game, but it's really amazing. The sense of scale they gave. It was the first time I saw that in video game. Like you had the Big Mac, but then the four-story buildings were like around the Mac's waist or chest, and it was like, whoa! There was tiny car on the street, or there was the aircraft carrier stage where you had those tiny aircraft lying there on the ground, almost the size of the Mac's feet. So that was pretty cool. I remember that part in the animation where they had the attack on the aircraft carrier too. So yeah, for future plans, there is this. There is a game we are cooking up to with some black, based on south of Brazil legends about the screamer. So it's something quite different from most people do with folklore. We have very few modern representations of this kind of folklore. Mostly people go for the Amazon or Northwest tales, or make some allegory to culture, but don't have much of the South region culture explored. So yeah, that will be cool. We are waiting to have more time to actually sit and work through with, but this is, say, one of our next biggest projects. And I guess that's about it for now. I still looking for some fixed position, and once that happens, there will be probably far more projects going on.
So if somehow you have in your company there is a spot for, oh, I just did a mistake. Seriously? I tried to lower this image here. Okay, if you have a spot for a designer, Ceci Honey is there. Yeah, if you don't have a spot, but you may know someone that's looking to hire her. You can see her work is awesome. She
Thank you.
knows not just pixel art, as she says, she does a little of 3D art. She knows a little of lines. And if we're trying to mess with vectors now, so a lot of stuff.
Yeah, plan to mess with vectors and illustration too. Like getting back to illustration, actually use it to do that by hand and scan and paint on the computer with a mouse. So now I have a digital drawing table and pen. So I plan just to get used to it. Once I get used to it, this will be like drawing on paper, hopefully. Everything goes well. And then I can go back to making illustrations like I used to do with a scanner and like drawing with a pen and then scanning and then painting. So even better actually because the drawing table I got has a lot of cool options. So let's hope for the best.
Uh, any, no one has any questions left. I think this will be the end for today's strings. I will be trying to raise uh, a string about art here. You can stay up to get some channel points, and you buy my awesome and only emote for now. There are more emotes coming for bits, but for now you only unlock one. Unlock it, it's nice. You can say hi.
Cool.
So this is it. This was Ceci Honey's, the amazing transgender woman, albino autistic woman. She has a lot of, I forgot the term. Just like onions, you have many
Any
layers.
layers? Yeah. Not talking about layers. Not talking about layers.
Layers. And I think this is it. Thank you all for coming, and have a nice, not weekend because it's still Thursday, but almost weekend. And see you all Saturday. The raid is incoming in about 7 seconds. People. And now we pretend we're talking to each other.
Okay, I guess. Uh,
Ok, já foi a
is the
raid.
sound on? Oh, okay.